Thanks for tuning in, guys, to the Pest and Lawn Ninjas. Today, we're going to go over my lawn fall preparation tips. All right, lawn ninjas, you want to have the best looking lawn next season? Well, guess what? It all starts with fall preparation. Now's the time to get off the couch, get to the doing. Let's go. Step number one, proper watering. Now, when it comes to fall time and watering, it's important that we don't overwater, and it's important that we don't underwater. Now, you notice my lawn is a lot more green than a lot of the people around me, and the difference is they cut the water early. Now, what that does for the lawn is it forces the grass into going to sleep to protect itself, or dormancy. Now, it's also just stress dormancy, and it affects your root development. So I'm making sure that I'm watering once a week at about 1/4 of an inch to force water down. Now, sometimes I'm only watering once every 10 days, depending on how far the water is penetrating, and I'm just watching the color of my grass. Now, truth be told, the ground temperatures below 55 degrees make it so the lawn isn't growing super vigorous, and that's not necessarily what I want. What I do want is I want to maintain my color, I want to maintain my balance, but I want to make sure there's enough water deep enough that the roots want to chase. Now, it's very typical in the fall time that your daytime and nighttime temperatures are going to begin to come down dramatically, which means that we're going to have less evaporation occurring and we don't need to water as much. Now, as a general rule of thumb, we don't want the soil to completely dry out at any given time. Now, since everybody's lawns are different, soil types are different, there's no possible way I can tell you how many minutes you need to have on your sprinkler system. So my recommendation is to do what I do. Get a soil probe or get a screwdriver, get in the lawn, and see how far the water's actually penetrating. A good plug will be about 6 to 8 inches, and it won't be too wet, but it also won't be dry. Now, this is a prime example of what drought stress dormancy does to a lawn. Now, will the lawn survive? Yeah, absolutely it will. It just starts looking dry. But when we don't have water 6 to 8 inches down, it's got nothing to chase. Now, can you fix this in the springtime? Yes, you can, but you're stunting some very favorable root growth. Step number 2, lowering the height of cut. Now, I know there's a lot of us out there that like having long cool season grass or even long warm season grass. But the bottom line is fall preparation, it's important to lower the height of cut to prevent fungal problems like snow mold. Now, in my opinion, there's 2 ways to safely lower the height of cut. Now, you definitely don't want to go from 4 inches down to 1 inch. So my recommendation for you guys to keep the grass long is start increasing your mow frequency. If you're only mowing once a week, increase that to 2 to 3 times per week and gradually step down the lawn. Now, a lot of you guys have heard about the 1/3 rule. You don't want to cut more than 1/3 of the grass blade at a time to avoid undue stress in the lawn. Now, option number 2 is to wait for the ground temperatures to get below 40 degrees. At that point, the grass is done growing topically, and you can safely mow from 4 inches down to 1 inch if that's the way that you want to do it. Now, the only problem with doing it that way is it's going to make your lawn look like hay all winter long instead of having a nice rich color leading into the winter. Step number 3, yard cleanup. Doing a yard cleanup at the end of the season is a very important part. It's important to remember that our mowers are not perfect and we've dropped a lot of debris on the soil surface. Now, we may not be able to see all of it, but there is a certain amount that is definitely sitting on top of the soil. Now, one thing about fall time that I think we all recognize is our trees start dropping leaves and they also start dropping seeds. Now, when this happens, it ends up acting like mulch or a weed barrier, and it can suffocate areas. Now, the other thing is fungus. A lot of you guys end up with brown patch, melting out fungus because there's too much stuff on the soil surface. Now, an easy remedy for that I like to use is a dethatcher. Now, you can get the Greenworks dethatcher or preferably the Sunjo dethatcher like I use, or you can just use a Thatch Rake and pull it all out at fall time. Now, as a positive side effect of removing the lawn litter, you're going to see an increase in color by removing the dead debris that's just sitting there and clouding your color. Now, the other positive side effect is you remove the debris that harbors fungus, making yard cleanup a fantastic preventive measure. Now, once we move the lawn debris, we can move on to an optional service called lawn aeration. Now, I say it's optional because it depends on the soil type you have. If you have clay type soils, you're going to experience more compaction with all the little ones running on it. Lawn aeration helps reduce that soil compaction. Now think of lawn aeration as if you're tilling a garden. It's going to increase oxygen in the soil, but more importantly, we're going to reduce water runoff and puddling. Now we're also removing and reducing thatch buildup and improving fertilizer uptake. My recommended aeration schedule is in the spring and fall when the ground temperatures are below 55 degrees. And if you have sandy soil, one time in the spring. Step number 4, lawn fertilization. All right, lawn ninjas. Now the point of my fall fertilization is to piss the neighbors off and just keep it as green and as simple as possible. Now here's my opinion on this. Your majors, which are your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, are more important than your minors, simply because the microorganisms aren't going to be pulling those minors as quickly as they will the majors. Now my focus on the majors are going to be nitrogen and potassium and a little bit of phosphorus, but I'm most interested in the nitrogen and the potassium. You're probably wondering, hey Ginja, I get the nitrogen thing, but why the potassium? Well, potassium helps the blades of the grass sustain the cold weather longer. So I'm going to be using a 7% nitrogen with a 14% potassium, and that's going to help me keep it greener for longer. Now you may not have access to this exact product in your area, and the only thing I want you to focus on is the first number and the last number. The first number needs to be higher than a 7, and the last number needs to be higher than a 10. The ground temperatures getting below 55 degrees, we want to make sure that you don't purchase a slow release fertilizer. Any sort of urea and ammoniacal nitrogen that is a quick release is preferred. Now, as long as you can get that last number on the bag higher, I just want you to follow the recommended rates on the bag. So if the recommended rates are 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet, just follow those instructions. All right, lawn ninjas, you want to piss the neighbors off and keep that grass looking green throughout the fall and early winter while the other ones are going dormant? Follow these easy steps. We want to start with a quick release fertilizer. Now, you're going to hear me say something that might shock you, but using urea or a quick release ammoniacal nitrogen is the way to go. You can choose a 10% nitrogen all the way up to a 20% without having any problems. Now, I'm going to use somewhere around a 1/4 pound to 1/2 pound of nitrogen to release and stimulate some growth. Now, that's not actually what's going to make everything just stay nice and hardy and green. That's my potassium. Potassium will make it survive the cold weather longer throughout the season. Well guys, this concludes my lawn fall preparation video. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. Love to help you out. Till the next time guys, this is the Pest and Lawn Ginja.